particularly welcome Shana Tova, Happy New Year to those celebrating the Jewish New Year. And just welcoming everyone. I'm just going into gallery view myself, just seeing folks from Karimera from New Jersey, Stephanie from Naples, Florida, Steph from Pittsburgh, Melinda from Vermont, Zoe from New York City, Linnea, good to see you, Linnea from Spokane, Washington, Elena from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, good to see you, Jackie from Maine, and all those from DC and Maryland and Virginia, Betty and Joe from Charlottesville, seeing Patricia from St. Petersburg. I imagine that's Florida rather than Russia. Welcome to you all. Tracy from Oregon, Collins from Walnut Creek, California. So lovely to see you all and to be together. This is my actually for the second week in a row. I'm having this is the second session I have on a Sunday morning. I was just on a Zoom live session, and it was even more diverse in terms of places in the world. We had, I think, over 650 people on the live session, and it was probably, my guess, I couldn't have time able to scroll all of the chat scrolling through, but there must have been like 40 or 50 different countries. And so it's just a wonderful thing that we are able to be together in this way. We're just sharing before we actually got started this morning how, in a way, this is a saving grace or a silver lining of this time that we're living in, this time of the pandemic, where we can't be together, and not wise of us to be together in person, but that we can be together in this way. And I find it hugely, I don't know, encouraging, supportive to know that we're all practicing together and to actually be practicing together, cultivating these teachings, these practices of freedom. Want to very much note and remember the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, really, as many have said, a kind of a giant, not just in the law and in jurisprudence, and as a lawyer and as a judge, a Supreme Court judge ultimately, but also as a human being, as a really compassionate and righteous human being. I was just reading an article where fellow Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer said, "I heard of Ruth's death while I was reciting the mourner's Kaddish at the Rosh Hashanah service." He said, Ruth Ginsburg was a great justice, a woman of valor, a rock of righteousness, and my good friend. The world is a better place for her having lived in it. And this also shares that her death on the eve of Rosh Hashanah also has significance in the Jewish tradition. Rabbis and friends said one of the themes of Rosh Hashanah suggests that very righteous people would die at the very end of the year because they were needed until the very end. That was from Rabbi Rick Jacobs, president of the Union of Reform Judaism. So, of holding Ruth Bader Ginsburg in our hearts, I was struck as well by the teacher that I've been you know, kind of posthumously studying with, practicing with over the last recent months. Rob Babaya died in May on the holiest day in Buddhism, the feast of festival feast of Vesak, which celebrates the birth, the death, and the awakening, the enlightenment of the Buddha. So there's something that, you know, that feels perhaps more than coincidental, kind of when righteous people leave at very kind of symbolic times. I remember Leonard Cohen left just a day or two before the 2016 election, as though he had a premonition of what was to come. And it's another bodhisattva of mine. And so, and recognizing, of course, without choosing to get into the granular details of it, that all of the ways in which Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing has a wider societal and perhaps global impact at the time it's happened, and all that's coming out of that. And the only thing I will say is that my own personal belief is that her passing at this time will not be an obstacle to the creation or the election of a caring and compassionate leadership for the years ahead. I have a strong feeling about that, and time obviously will tell, but I don't think it'll work in the way of somehow leading us on a continued path to great global and nationwide suffering. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about and sharing reflections on the hindrances that that come up in our practice. Kind of, I've been sharing reflections within kind of an overall framework of these two central instructions of the Buddha. I've spoken about a lot in the last month or so. One, he said, is to abandon what is unskillful. And the other is to cultivate what is skillful, or cultivate the good. If we can think of our practice, both in meditation and in our daily lives, as essentially being about these two core practices. You know, the abandoning of what's unskillful is really grounded in the practice of mindfulness, but also a lot of other qualities whereby we bring awareness to where we're suffering, you know, which is the first of the Buddha's noble truths, is to acknowledge and see, understand the existence of suffering. If we're suffering, if we're caught up in craving something, or we're caught up in anger or anguish or anxiety or any other unwholesome state, we're suffering. And so the Buddha's teachings were to abandon, to let go of the suffering. And of course, we know we can't just let go of suffering. Oh, I see I'm suffering. I'll let that go. Would that if it were that easy, you know, I'll just let go of my suffering. Maybe for some people who have a depth of practice, a great depth of practice, and there have been those people, certainly. There is a kind of seeing of the arising of a strong mind state, a strong, you know, afflicted mind state, but enough to kind of just see, okay, it comes and it goes. But for most of us, we have a lot of habit energy kind of holding us into kind of patterns and habits of whatever they are, of greed, of craving, of anger, of judgment, of blame, of all sorts of different afflictive qualities. And so it's typically not enough just to see this state coming up. So we have practices to help us to work with these afflictive states when they do come up. You know, the core practice is of awareness. You know, being present with all that is here in the body, in the heart, in the mind, without resistance, without judging, without clinging, to simply allow what's here to come and go. And if clinging comes up, to just see that if we can hold that with kindness and with acceptance. And if we judge ourselves for what comes up, to hold that too with kindness and acceptance. So that if you think of it, it's like we're making, if we think of our, you know, experience as kind of holding a container that contains everything that comes up in the mind, in the body, in the emotions, everything that comes up. What we're doing, what we're intending to do and cultivating doing, is to really allow whatever comes up to come and go without getting in a fight with it, essentially, getting in a struggle, trying to get rid of what we don't like, trying to hold on to what we do like, getting into this push and pull, pulling what we want, pushing what we don't want, and kind of spacing out and escaping from what feels kind of uninteresting, boring, etc. So if we can cultivate these qualities of kindness and acceptance and non-judging, then everything can be held, and everything can come and go. And that really is the heart of the Buddha's practice. You know, there's many other skillful means we can use, skillful practices. We can replace one quality with another consciously. For example, if we find we're judging ourselves, oh, I'm so useless, oh, I'll never get this right. All these kind of stories and beliefs in our mind, we can consciously, when they come up, bring mindfulness to that story, that belief, and then consciously replace it. Replace that judgment with loving kindness. You know, open to that, the judgment that's here, the blame, the anger, whatever it is, and replace it. May I be happy with kindness, with loving kindness, with compassion. So many skillful means we can bring in, but essentially allowing whatever is here to come and go in its own time. If we can do this, say all of these mind states and emotions and bodily feelings self-liberate. They free themselves. We don't have to do anything except just meet them with a receptive awareness. So it's as long as we don't fight with them, we don't pull, we don't push, we don't space out, but we bring a kind, conscious, non-judging awareness to our experience, then they can all, you know, like the weather, they can come and go. You know, they can drop their rain or their snow or the sun or whatever. They can come and go. This is really the core of what the Buddha taught about abandoning what is unskillful, seeing when we are holding on and choosing to let go, choosing it even better than let go, choosing to let be, you know, let everything be. If everything can come and go in its own time, it doesn't have to be a problem. It doesn't have to be afflictive. It doesn't have to cause suffering. So abandon what's unskillful. And the other instruction was cultivate the good. Cultivate wholesome emotions and mind states that lead us towards happiness, excuse me, and well-being. I mentioned last week and a little bit the week before about the practice of mindfulness and how the practice of mindfulness itself brings in a lot of other wholesome qualities and a lot of other wholesome states, like concentration, like focusing the mind, like calming calming the mind and the body. Brings in the quality of kindness, meeting our experience with kindness. Brings in the quality of, or invites in the quality of wise understanding, knowing why we're doing what we're doing, knowing what leads to suffering and what leads to well-being. Having that understanding, however developed it is, having some level of understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and why it's helpful to us. Cultivating wise intention, knowing where we're going. What is the trajectory? What is the goal? What is it that we're wanting to cultivate, to develop through these practices, through this practice? And for all of us, maybe in different languages, what we're looking for is some level of freedom in our lives, some greater happiness or well-being, and to be able to kind of untangle the tangles of our lives, lessening the stress and the worry and the fear in our lives. How many of us are caught up in some way or another in this political season that we're living in right now? Any of you experiencing challenging emotions? Christine's nodding her head ironically. I know for myself, I mean, it's something that I consciously bring my practice to, but it would be very hard for a caring human being not to be very concerned, not to have some level of worry, perhaps some level of fear. But if we can work with it skillfully, those concerns can actually be channeled in a helpful direction. I've spoken before of how action absorbs anxiety, how we can, by taking action, by sending postcards, making calls, writing letters, donating, in those kind of ways, it helps absorb our anxiety. It helps kind of drain away our anxiety. So we can cultivate these wholesome states of heart and mind that lead to greater well-being. The quality of curiosity, of investigation, of really bringing, asking ourselves questions. Where is this suffering that I'm feeling coming from right now? Where is it coming from? What are the causes of it? Did I do anything to help kind of create the conditions for this fear my mind to be filled with fear or to be filled with anger? So we can bring this quality of investigation. So all of these ways that we're inviting in wholesome and beneficial states of heart and mind. So these two central practices, and then the reality of our experience, if we sit down to meditate, what we're going to experience, maybe not in this moment, or maybe not even in this sitting, but sometime, and maybe quite a lot, difficulties will arise in our experience. I think nobody on this call in this class today who's meditated more than once or twice would say that it's always been hunky-dory, it's always been plain sailing, that there haven't been big waves coming up in our experience. Jack Cornfield often says, I don't know, maybe quoting some other teacher, that, if you haven't cried a great deal, wept, shed tears in meditation, you probably haven't done a lot of it, because, particularly if you're on a retreat and over a number of days and things can come up and remorse can come up and all sorts of different difficult experiences can come up. All of them can be worked with skill and with awareness and with kindness. But the hindrances, the difficulties, the obstacles are an integral part of the path. They're an integral part of the path. We couldn't wake up, I don't think, without the obstacles, without the difficulties. Would the Buddha have woken up without his struggles, without his, the suffering really coming out of, intensely wanting to be free, and yet finding himself caught up in in feeling not free, and then going through all of the kind of the machinations of asceticism, of punishing the body and the mind as though that was going to free the heart, you know, and recognizing it at the end that it wasn't, but in that process really being caught up in suffering and all the other ways he searched for freedom. I don't think that liberation, that enlightenment would have been possible if there hadn't been, you know, the obstacles, the difficulties. If there weren't the difficulties, I don't think anyone, the Buddha or anybody else, would really even embark on a path of awakening. You know, it would be like we were, you know, like in the Matrix, or in a kind of soporific state where kind of we feel kind of pretty good, but we don't, not really free, but there's no real big things, you know, real big, you know, painful things. It's almost like we're in a pleasant coma. You know, we wouldn't even try to probably get out of it. We wouldn't have the impetus. Often, and for most of us probably, suffering gets us going on the path. You know, Mary Oliver says, one day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, you know, and all of that of like recognizing the need to break out of the stress and the suffering of our lives. So the obstacles are an inherent, really an integral part of the path. And, you know, as I spoke of in terms of abandoning the unskillful, we can work with the hindrances, with the obstacles that arise through saying yes to them, by opening to them, allowing them to come and go, riding the waves of our experience, learning to, you know, to go with the highs and the lows, to be able to go with be present with the difficult experiences and know they don't last forever. And then a pleasant experience comes, or a neutral one comes. You know, that you've probably all heard that expression, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You know that one, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. There was a poster with, I think it was Swami Satchidananda on a surfboard with his flowing robes, you know, and that was the caption. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And you can think of this practice that we do, you know, we do on our own, we do together, we do in our daily lives, as really learning to surf, learning the skillful means, the helpful ways that we can learn to be with our experience, you know, without resistance, without judgment, there's not just one way of working with difficult experiences. You know, I'm talking now particularly about the difficult ones rather than the pleasant and the, you know, the beautiful ones, but with the difficult ones, there are different things we can do. Sometimes it's opening to our experience fully. Sometimes it may be, you know, really bringing in determination, or really consciously inviting in loving kindness. Sometimes it's changing the channel, shifting our energies from one state to another. So there's different ways we can work with our experiences skillfully. So these hindrances, the difficulties that come up with meditation and in daily life, are eminently workable with, eminently experienceable. You know, we can work with these difficult experiences. They're not an aberration. They're not something that shouldn't be happening. They're really part of life. And so I spoke last. The way we can work with these difficulties, the Buddha gave five instructions. One was to just notice when one of these afflictive states is present. Just be aware that you know, that craving is present or aversion is present. sloth and torpor, this sense of dullness and drowsiness is present. Whether restlessness and worry are present, agitation in the body, worry, anxiety in the mind, or doubt, debilitating doubt is present. Notice if one of these states is present, or sometimes notice if two or more of these states are present. Sometimes that's spoken about on retreat as a multiple hindrance attack, where you're caught up in both craving and aversion, sloth, torpor, restlessness, worry, and doubt all together. It's just like all of them, and you're buffeted around by them. You can work with that, see if maybe take the strongest one and try and work with that, and kind of try and untangle yourself from the whole web of hindrances, the web of difficult mind states and emotions. So we can work with, we can be aware of when they're present, be aware of when they're not present, when a hindrance isn't present. And when we're aware, we'll notice if the hindrances aren't present, then what we will tend to find, if we pay attention with kindness, is that there's a wholesome state present, or more than one wholesome state present. If we let go of the anger and the greed and the delusion, what happens is we come back to a natural quality. It can manifest as peace, it can manifest as happiness, it can manifest as love, it can manifest as joy, different expressions of beautiful states of heart and mind that will naturally arise. It's as though often they're covered over with afflictive states. They're there, but we're not able to connect with them because the afflictive state is taking up the bandwidth in our consciousness. We're focused on that. We're caught up in fear. There's really no room to connect with love or with joy. We can bring love and joy in as a way of working with the fear. But if we're really caught up in the fear, the anxiety, the anger, then none of these qualities are present. Modern neuroscience confirms this as well as thousands of years of people practicing. You can't be caught up in fear and in loving kindness at the same time. The mind just doesn't work in that way. You may kind of go in and out of one. You're caught in fear, but then you bring in the kindness, the loving kindness, and then a thought comes up and you move to fear. Yes, you can do a kind of roller coaster of that. But really, if you're in, what we want to do, obviously, is to cultivate the wholesome and just abandon. You could think of it as feeding the wholesome and starving the unwholesome. We're not giving nutrients to the unwholesome states of heart and mind, but we are giving nutrients. We're giving sun and nutrition and water and good plant seed to the wholesome states. So we're aware of a hindrance being present. We're aware when they're not present. We're also we can know the conditions that give rise to the hindrance, and I spoke about that last week. That what is it that gives rise to the anger? For example, anger when it comes up. Maybe we're watching a lot of the cable shows on television, and people are getting, riled up, and we're getting riled up. And we find when we think of a politician, we get angry. I won't name names because I don't need to. You just think of your favorite enemy and it'll come up. So, but if you can think about what gives rise to the unwholesome quality, then you can let it go. And then know the conditions that lead to the removal of the hindrance. What leads to removal of sloth and torpor? First thing is to just open to the experience and be with it with kindness and acceptance. What I've talked about is kind of riding the waves. Another is to bring in an antidote, bring in another quality, bring in energy. take some deeper breaths, and open your eyes, stand up, all of this, that we can kind of change the frame, we can change the channel. So know the conditions that lead to the removal of the unwholesome state, the hindrance, and then know how to prevent the state arising in the future. We can learn from how it's come up in this time, say, okay, in the future, maybe it would be a good idea if I took in less of the cable TV, or I went on a more of a diet around the information I'm taking in, or that I work with my thoughts and see whenever angry thoughts or anxious thoughts come up, I kind of choose to let them go and choose not to, not to fuel those thoughts. So these are some of the ways that we can work with these painful states of heart and mind. And what I want to just say a little bit about is also that ways in which we can work with these hindrances when they arrive is in our meditation itself. We can pay attention in a different way to our experience. So we're bringing mindfulness to a hindrance. We notice anxiety is present. Check in with that. But yet we're still finding a lot of anxious thoughts coming up in the mind. One thing we can do is just notice the thoughts come up in the mind. Notice it. Choose not to follow the thought. And just come back to the breath, come back to the body. Let ourselves feel what we're feeling. But it may be that that's not so helpful it's not, we're still staying in that anxious mode. Well, one thing we might do in our practice is to kind of open the frame more. Notice our experience, kind of broaden the frame to notice the mind, all of those parts of ourselves that don't feel anxious right now. Or we could let our awareness be much larger than just this narrow band of kind of caught up in anxiety mode, rather than just open the mind more widely. It might be to just invite a reflection of the mind to be as like a sky, wide open sky. And then, seeing that the anxiety is part of that, but it's only a part. Noticing that we're also aware of sounds from outside, also aware of bodily feelings, also aware maybe of emotions that are not so painful or difficult, maybe a neutral feeling of okay, maybe a little bit of joy comes in. So we can pay attention, we can widen the frame as a skillful means of working with the hindrance that is present. Another way we can work with the experience is to go in the opposite direction, to kind of pay attention in a much more refined way, kind of focus it more. So we're rather than looking at anxiety as kind of this ball of experience, we look at the different pieces that make it up. If you see the thoughts, the bodily feelings, the emotions, and stay as close as we can in a very refined way to the experience. So we're coming into our experience in more of a micro way. So in the first example, it's a macro way. We're opening to the big picture. In this way, we're going in a much more refined way. Each of them can be helpful, and some at different times. One may be helpful at different times in opening space. Another may be more helpful. It may be, for example, if we're feeling restless, focusing in very closely, narrowing the band of awareness, paying attention more closely may be a helpful way, the most helpful way of working with that particular hindrance of restlessness and worry. Another way we can work with the difficult experience is to invite in kindness. You know, just kind of hold yourself. Imagine you're being held in a, you know, could be a ball of kindness, or held in the lap of the Buddha or of another loving being, using visualizations. You know, imagining yourself held in kindness, helping you to hold the difficult experience within all of that. And another way of working with, you know, a skillful means of working with afflictive qualities is to really bring curiosity to them. You know, be really interested. You know, the thoughts that come up in the mind of, oh, this is going to happen. If it's anxiety, this is going to happen. You might, you know, interrogate that thought. Are you really sure this is going to happen? Is this really true? You know, be really curious about what's coming up. Be kind of investigate, so that you can, in that way, maybe unpack the strong hold that the thoughts have on the heart and the mind. So coming back again to the big picture, the big kind of macro picture, that it's natural and really unavoidable that hindrances, that obstacles will arise in the body, heart, and mind. And if we can meet them with kindness, with care, with compassion, without judgment, without clinging, without pushing away, just make space for everything, then really our lives we can transform our lives in this way. Life, you know, can cease to be a struggle and can be more of a flow. Joy, well-being can be more of the quality that, you know, that fills all of our consciousness, if we can bring these qualities, cultivating and abandoning, to our experience. And this, certainly for myself, this really is a path to well-being, true well-being and happiness. And as the Buddha said, he said, basically, don't believe me, see for yourself. The word in Pali is ehipassiko, see for yourself, test for yourself, judge for yourself, based on your own direct experience and based on everything you can know. Does this lead to well-being or does it lead to suffering? And follow the path that leads to happiness and to well-being, and let go of the path and the behaviors, actions, thoughts, words that lead to suffering. So we'll move into a guided meditation now. So I'd invite you to, excuse me, let your attention come inward. And just drop down out of the thinking mode. Come into the body. Feel the contact with the surface beneath you. Feel the weight of your body pressing down on your chair or whatever you're in contact with. Let go of thoughts as much as you can. Put them aside for another time and let yourself be here. Let yourself be present right now. You could take a few longer, deeper breaths to help you settle, relax a little bit more, if that's helpful for you. energizing the body on the in-breath and relaxing and letting go on the out-breath. Letting the deeper breathing help you settle, relax a little bit more so you can be present with whatever is here, whatever's arising. And again, maybe familiar with how it feels to invite a smile to your face. It's letting the facial muscles around the eyes and around the mouth come into the expression of a smile. Thinking of a loved one or dear friend, if that's helpful, child, a baby, a pet, someone or some being that can really kind of light you up, make you feel happy and joyful. And if you can, just take in the feeling, take in that expression, the feeling of a smile. Take it into your heart area. Invite it into your body and into your being. If it's helpful, put a hand on your heart, on your belly. And the expression of kindness and care towards yourself. Caring about this life, this being, yourself. You could send yourself a wish of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be held in loving kindness, filled with loving kindness. And in your own time, just letting the breath settle into its natural rhythm and open to what you're experiencing right now. Can you welcome the guests? Welcome whatever is present right now. Welcome the difficult feelings as well as the pleasant, easier feelings. Can you make space for a feeling of worry or anxiety or fear or wanting something you don't have? Can it be okay that this is here too right now? Can you meet this experience, this moment, just as it is, with kindness, with acceptance, without judgment? And if judgment or criticism or any other difficult emotion or reaction comes up, see if you can meet them too with kindness, with acceptance, without judgment. If it's helpful, you can use your breath, your breathing as an anchor for your awareness, as a place to rest your attention. The experience of breathing in and breathing out. In breath and out breath. Whatever comes up, can you meet it with this kind and friendly attitude without pushing anything away or judging it? And whatever comes up, let kindness and acceptance be the container that holds it all. So being aware of any hindrances that are present, any difficult states of mind and heart, and making space for them to be here. Letting them come, letting them go. And if it's helpful, you can bring in other qualities to help yourself hold them. Like if strong judgment comes up, maybe, oh, I'm not doing it right, or I'm no good at this. Just consciously bring in kindness. Or consciously let the space be much larger. Be aware of other things coming and going within this space of awareness. Know what's helpful to bring in. Bring in curiosity where that's helpful. What am I experiencing? What am I noticing right now? And I'd like to finish this meditation with a commencement address. Maybe some of you might be familiar with this. It's by Paul Hawken. I mean, it was to the graduating class at the University of Portland of 2009. Paul Hawken is an environmentalist, entrepreneur, journalist, and author. His books include Blessed Unrest. It's a little too long to read the whole thing, although I'd love to, but we'll definitely share it with you. But I'll begin at the beginning and then share just pieces of it during the pieces that stand out for me. So he begins, he says, when I was invited to give this speech, I was asked if I could give a simple short talk that was, quote, direct, naked, taut, honest, passionate, lean, shivering, startling, and graceful, end quote. No pressure there. Let's begin with the startling part. Class of 2009, you are going to have to figure out what it means to be a human being on Earth at a time when every living system is declining and the rate of decline is accelerating. Kind of mind-boggling situation. But not one peer-reviewed paper published in the last 30 years can refute that statement. Basically, civilization needs a new operating system. You are the programmers, and we need it within a few decades, maybe a few years now. This planet came with a set of instructions, but we seem to have misplaced them. Important rules like don't poison the water, soil, or air. Don't let the earth get overcrowded, and don't touch the thermostat have been broken. Buckminster Fuller said that spaceship Earth was so ingeniously designed that no one has a clue that we are on one, flying through the universe at 1,000,000 miles per hour with no need for seatbelts, lots of room in coach, and really good food. But all that is changing. He goes on, I read some pieces. He says, and here's the deal. Forget that this task of planet saving is not possible in the time required. Don't be put off by people who know what is not possible. Do what needs to be done and check to see if it was impossible only after you are done. When asked if I am pessimistic or optimistic about the future, my answer is always the same. If you look at the science about what is happening on Earth and aren't pessimistic, you don't understand the data. But if you meet the people who are working to restore this Earth and the lives of the poor, and you aren't optimistic, you haven't got a pulse. What I see everywhere in the world are ordinary people willing to confront despair, power, and incalculable odds in order to restore some semblance of grace, justice, and beauty to this world. The poet Adrian Rich wrote, "So much has been destroyed, I have cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." There could be no better description. Humanity is coalescing, it's reconstituting the world, and the action is taking place in schoolrooms, farms, jungles, villages, campuses, companies, refugee camps, deserts, fisheries, and slums. I'm going to leave a good bit out and come towards the end. It says, so I have two questions for you all. First, can you feel your body? Stop for a moment, feel your body. 1 septillion activities going on simultaneously, and your body does this so well you're free to ignore it and wonder instead when this speech will end. You can feel it. It's called life. This is who you are. Second question, who is in charge of your body? Who is managing those molecules? Hopefully not a political party. Life is creating the conditions that are conducive to life inside you, just as in all of nature. Our innate nature is to create the conditions that are conducive to life. What I want you to imagine is that collectively, humanity is evincing a deep innate wisdom in coming together to heal the wounds and insults of the past. Ralph Waldo Emerson once asked what we would do if the stars only came out once every 1,000 years. No one would sleep that night, of course. The world would create new religions overnight. We would be ecstatic delirious, made rapturous by the glory of God. Instead, the stars come out every night and we watch television. This extraordinary time when we're globally aware of each other and the multiple dangers that threaten civilization has never happened, not in 1,000 years, not in 10,000 years. Each of us is as complex and beautiful as all the stars in the universe. We've done great things and we've gone way off course in terms of honoring creation. You are graduating to the most amazing, stupefying challenge ever bequested to any generation. The generations before you failed. They didn't stay up all night. They got distracted and lost sight of the fact that life is a miracle every moment of your existence. Nature beckons you to be on her side. You couldn't ask for a better boss. The most unrealistic person in the world is the cynic, not the dreamer. Hope only makes sense when it doesn't make sense to be hopeful. This is your century. Take it and run as if your life depends on it. Just noticing what comes out of sharing that. Someone sharing that reflection, those reflections. Taking a time coming out of the meditation and coming back, and invite Emily, if you would, to, as you do so beautifully, lead us in some movement, come back into our bodies. Come in our bodies.
Let me invite everyone to take a moment to stand and placing your palms out. Raise your arms, lifting up and reach up, reaching up to the sky, the beautiful sky and the stars beyond, and cultivate the energy. And bring that energy to your heart, deep within, allowing it to settle there. And then cultivate the energy of this group, all of us together as a Sangha, and bring that energy to your heart. And then gather the energy of the earth, that which provides so much abundance, and bring that energy to your heart. Let's start by swaying from side to side, lifting one heel as you sway to the other, enjoying the space and movement as you breathe. And then slow it down. Come back to standing. Feel your feet. And placing your palms again. Rise up, raising your arms, grasp your right wrist in your left hand. Take a deep breath in here and tilt over to the left, drawing your body over to the left, breathing into your rib cage, the right rib cage. And exhale to center. Switch hands. Breathing in, stretching up, reaching up, and then tilt to the right. Taking a breath into your left rib cage, fill it. And exhale to center. Float your arms down. And take a moment to dance, to move your shoulders, circle them, and the other way, however you might wish to be. And then place your hands at the back of your waist. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, lengthen your arms away from your body, lifting your chest, lifting your head. And bring your arms back, chin to chest. Inhale, lift up, reaching up, extending your arms out. And release. Last time. Breathe in. Exhale, extend out. And then down. Shake it out. And for the last movement, place your hands above your knees. Breathe in. Exhale, allow your body to fold down, bending at the hip crease where your legs meet your hips and lowering down to wherever it's comfortable for you. Breathe in here, lifting up a little, and exhale, allow your body to drop down just a little bit more. And take one good breath in. Exhale with a sigh. And then slowly place your hands above your knees. Tuck in your tailbone. Start to rise up. And place your hands at heart center. And when you want, release to the sky. Release to the world and to the earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. That's lovely. Pat, can we do a little bit of a shorter breakout group today? Let's do 10 minutes. And so to invite you, be as concise as you can, because we've got a little bit less time today because things went on a bit in terms of me going on a bit. And share of what's alive for you, what's challenging for you, and a couple of minutes each, and maybe a couple of minutes at the end for just kind of conversation and listening to practicing mindful listening and mindful speaking. So we'll come back in 10 minutes, Pat. That's good.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Eavesdropping, it's wonderful.
Eavesdropping, that's wonderful. Yeah, that is great. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We were just talking about this office. Yeah, well, we're kind of getting close to time, so let's just finish with a short period of meditation. And please feel free, if you would like to just share anything about your experience from today, anything that was helpful, anything that was unhelpful, anything that came from the breakout groups, if you like to do that before or after the meditation. So let's sit again. Let's relax, arrive again. It's helpful. Close your eyes and let your attention come inward. Dropping down out of the thoughts and Dropping down into the body, feeling your body, feeling the sensations of the body. Taking a couple of deeper breaths if that's helpful. Energizing the body as you breathe in and relaxing as you breathe out. Inviting a smile if that's helpful to you right now. Again, if it's helpful connecting with yourself, you could put your hand on your heart, on your belly. Send yourself a wish of kindness, loving kindness, caring. And open to whatever is present for you right now in the body, in the heart, and in the mind. Can it all be held in kindness? Can it all be held in acceptance? Can it all be experienced without judging yourself or judging your experience? Letting everything come and go. Letting it come. Letting it be. Letting it go. Just aware that everything comes and stays for a time and then passes. Everything impermanent, changing, ungraspable. these lives of ours, just a flicker in time, just a moment in all of the time since the beginning of our universe and our earth. The Buddha said, "Thus shall ye think of all this fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom and a dream." And as we finish our time together today and move towards the closing, appreciate the effort that you've made and the energy, the kindness, the other wholesome qualities that you've brought to this session, to our time together. Just appreciating your goodness, your own goodness, your own dedication. Appreciating too everyone here together in all our different places. All of us wanting to live with wisdom, with greater clarity and insight, and with more kindness. Sending a wish of loving kindness to everyone, all of us here together. May you be happy. May you be safe, free from harm. May you be peaceful. May you live with ease and with kindness. Just expanding the circle of our connection and our caring out into the world. So much suffering at this time and these times. Just wishing everyone well, all beings, including those who are different from us, who see the world differently, who vote differently, recognizing our fundamental, inescapable connection. That underneath everything, that if somebody was in an accident and lying on the side of the road or needed support, we wouldn't ask them who they voted for. We'd reach out as they would too. And yet we can be so caught up in divisions, and recognizing too that it's important where we go. The direction we go in makes enormous difference, but not to take anyone, not to cut anyone out of our hearts. Wishing that all beings, all the humans and all the animals and creatures who are under such stress and strain from our human activities, may they be safe and well. May all beings everywhere be held in loving kindness, filled with loving kindness. May all beings be free from suffering. The Buddha says, live in joy, in love, even among those who hate. Live in joy, in health, even among the afflicted. Live in joy, in peace, even among the troubled. Look within, be still, free from fear and attachment. Know the sweet joy of the way. Just before we finish formally today, what I would like to share with you a couple of things coming up that you might be interested in. And then Margaret, I think, will be sharing other activities from the Center for Mindful Living that everyone is warmly invited to. Just a couple of things I have coming up. Next Saturday, we have a half-day retreat. Certainly, I can't remember the name of it, but it's definitely about working in challenging times with mindfulness and compassion and all of these qualities, which has been the kind of the theme of many of the retreats and classes in these last 6 months particularly. So that's next Saturday, September 26th, half day, and that's on the IMCW website. Last week I mentioned, and in a message I sent out, a letter writing effort that a number of us are involved in. And we're going to have a Zoom session on October 4th. So that's 2 Sundays from today. It'll be 1 to 3, so it'll be after our class. And we'll be getting together. We've probably got about 75 or 80 people already expressed an interest. And, we might get that number or a few more or few less. And we'll send 15 or 20 letters each to people in battleground states, not with a partisan message, but just why it's important for each of one of us to vote. And if you'd like to be part of that, been in contact with me, feel free to put your email in the chat box and we'll follow up with you. Basically, it's just a registering on the website, printing out your letters, and then we'll get together and do some meditation, and we'll do some letter writing together. So that's the second thing. One other thing is, before the Sunday morning session, if you want a somewhat longer Sunday, I do a session on Insight Time, or a live session. And today we had 650 or 680 people from around the world on there. So around 45 minutes, a short talk and a meditation. So if you'd like to do that, that begins at 9 on Sunday on Insight Time. And I'll be doing that at least for the next couple of weeks. And if people like it, they seem to, we'll continue to continue with that, with that program as well. And then gives me a little bit of practice, and then I can do our session at 10:30. And then the final thing is just to say, as you probably most of you know, there's no charge for the class, there's no cost for the class. But if you're able to, and if you're inclined to do so, you can send dana or generosity. And Pat, I think, will share in the chat box ways you can do that through the Insight Meditation Community of Washington.